Hello, welcome to and/or welcome back to my YouTube page. I'm Fire Lotus the Witch, and today I'm going to try my best to talk about integrating. That should be the word. And you're like, Lotus, what the hell are you talking about? So it's really hard when and/or it's difficult to explain when you go and you start to incorporate this into your practice, right? Say you went from Wicca to folk practitioner. There are certain things that it kind of integrating into it to where it becomes natural to you and normal. Um, and it's very difficult to kind of explain it, which I love. Do not get me wrong. This is why I love being a teacher and a mentor, because somebody comes to me like, hey, can you do a video on this? And I'm like, sure. So let's actually talk about it. So say, for an example, you started working with Hecate or Nyx. By the way, I did want to just throw this out here. There are a lot of dark goddesses. I hate that terminology, but it is technically is them. And right now, there are some people that are just hyperfixating due to social media on Hecate or Lilith. There's Nyx. There's so many other different types of dark goddesses that you could totally look into. But in general, how do we integrate things into our practice? Specifically, say you work with a Kati and now you just started working with an angel or Jesus. You know, how would you integrate them in? And to be honest, you go with the flow. You go with what is natural to you. And you're like, Lotus, what the fuck are you talking about right now? So you know those weird moments where you go to a new school in the middle of a school year, which means all of your classes, all of the normal routine that you were on, it takes you a moment to get used to, okay, well, once I leave science, now I have to go to math, which is halfway across the school, right? It's the same aspect of that. Now, with that being said, I'm not saying as you just start to research this, you're going to start integrating this into your practice. No, you need to get to a point where you yourself are actually comfortable with doing it. Another thing, the prime example of this is I've officially, because I do practice Southern Conjure or Conjuration, and there are aspects of that where they use the Bible. So specifically certain parts of the Bible. I'm actually starting to integrate that into my practice. Does that mean that I'm going to start yelling out Bible quotes with every working that I do? No, I'm not. But we have to do with what is comfortable with us. And a lot of the times, I think the biggest issue that people have is we tend to overthink how we should do this because thanks to social media, we get it in our heads that it needs to look like this. How somebody else's witchcraft looks is not going to be the same way yours looks, right? But that's not saying you've done something wrong. That's not saying you are doing something wrong. Everybody, when it comes to the word witchcraft, and if you're OG and or you've been around here for a while, you already know what I'm about to say. People hyperfixate on the witch part and don't focus enough on the craft part because it is a craft, which means you are going to hone it in. You're going to work it. You're going to remold it. You're going to smooth it out until it fits where you are at, while at the same time consciously recognizing that we are ever growing and ever evolving. If you've gotten a reading from me, you know I use this term where when balance turns into, because you'll hear that a lot in spirituality and witchcraft, which life is all about balance. I'm talking to you, my love and lighters out there. Yep, I had to say it. I'm talking about you. You're not balancing shit. You're only focusing on the light, which means when you get to a dark point in your life, you're not going to know what to do. I'm not saying you need to practice spicy workings or anything like that, but it is all about balance. But with that being said, your balance and my balance are not going to be the same. The same balance you had 6 months ago, 6 weeks ago to 6 years ago, it's not going to be the same that you need now in your life. So you've got to, for one, you've got to find what works for you and what doesn't. Another common thing that I see, sorry I'm messing with the cards, I have ADHD and I'm Southern, so I talk with my hands, and I know some people don't like that because it could be distracting, so why not shuffle the cards, right? Another thing that I see, and the best way that I can kind of explain this is, so when a witchling, by the way, we don't use the term baby witch here. You're not a baby. Stop degrading yourself. We use seedling, sprout, witchling, whatever. When they set up their altar for the very first time, they like to go online or to their group and be like, hey, look what I've done. And that's great. But you're also putting you're asking the opinion of the internet. And we all know there are certain types of Nancys and Bobs who's going to automatically insert themselves and say, well, actually, that should go there and this should go there. And that's when you say, go fuck yourself. Thank you for your opinion. Go fuck yourself. Don't actually say go fuck yourself. It'll start drama. But in general, you have to go with what works with you. For the longest time, every time that I met a witch and it got to the point in our friendship where I trusted them to show them my altar, I would go in there, have them in front of my altar and be like, what do you feel? How does the energy feel? And it was because I wanted validation that I'm doing this right, only to realize I don't need another person's validation unless they're a teacher and a mentor. And even then, you take it with a grain of salt, okay? Because when it comes to your altar, when it comes to your practice, there is no right or wrong way. Well, Lotus, what happens if I accidentally offend a deity or a spirit that I'm working with because I have a picture of Hecate? They will let you know that. And you're like, well, Lotus, what does that mean? How do I know? So, what's the best way to describe this? You know when you were a kid and your parents told you specifically to keep out of the cookie jar, but you snuck a cookie anyways? That kind of feeling, not the shame, but the feeling of, oh, I shouldn't be doing this. That. You know that feeling when you're at an in-laws or you're at your grandparents' house and they tell you to stay out of a room, but kids' curiosity, teenagers' curiosity, you want to know what's in the room. And you open the door and just peek? That feeling right there. Your deities, the energies you work with, the spirits you work with, including the ancestors you work with, they will let you know what they like and what they don't like. I have been told so many times that, oh, well, if you work with this pantheon, or if you work with the deity out of this pantheon, you're not going to have a deity of another pantheon right next to them because they don't like that. That's bullshit. To a degree. There are some deities that I've worked with and energies that I've worked with where they just did not get along. And also, I wanted to throw in there, kind of look at deities like, this is, so many people are going to come for me for this one, but it's the prime example. You know, in Hercules, the cartoon, where you had the goddesses, they're not really goddesses, in my heart they are, the muses, I believe they were, where they were constantly like doing, they were talking about what was happening. It's like that. You know how you can get your favorite movie and you can sit down and watch the movie, but with commentary from the directors and actors in it? Gods and goddesses kind of do that. As in, just because we don't call upon them, they're ever knowing, ever present, right? Omnipresent, right? But at the same time, they also talk with one another. There is an amazing creator on, I believe you can find them on here, but I know you can find them on TikTok and Instagram, the Bone Lady. Go look at some of their videos and some of the questions they've asked the bones, because they've asked, okay, does Loki like this? Did they not like one another? And the biggest misconception on that is they will let you know if you've done something that they don't like. By the way, you can piss off or upset a deity, but it takes like, you've got to really be trying to piss them off to do it. I don't know how the hell we went from how to integrate these things into your practice to deities, but I think ADHD people should be able to keep up. And if you're not ADHD, I hope you can keep up. I'm sorry. This is how my brain works. So at the end of the day, you've got to get to a point where you feel comfortable with what you're doing. This kind of goes into the question of, okay, well, I just started researching Hecate. At what point do I actually set up the altar and start getting candles and other trinkets and other things that represent her? Unfortunately, I can't give you a definitive answer. Now, I would not suggest, as you're just now researching her, to go out and drop $100 and something on all the Hecate things, because you need to make sure, A, she wants to work with you. B, you've also got to make sure that you actually want to work with her. I've been in that pressure of being a witch. Thank God it was before all of this technology we have and how everything has popped up. But I've kind of fallen into that loop of, oh, well, I'm a witch, I have to work with the deity. You do not. I know plenty of witches who do not work with deities. I know witches who only work with angels. I know deities. Wow. I know witches who only work with their ancestry. At one point in time in my practice, especially if you've been keeping up with me, I stopped working with any deity and I solely focused on my ancestors and building that relationship up. And that's okay. Your gods and goddesses, unless you have fully devoted yourself to them, most of them will only be working with you for a period of time. And typically, in my experience, it's because they're trying to show you something and or to get you to have that aha moment. It could also be self-empowering. And a lot of the times we kind of figured that out. When I first started working with Hecate, she was the very first goddess that I was ever really truly drawn to. And she she was the torchbearer through a lot of the dark stages in my life. But at the same time, it also helped me realize, oh shit, I've got some issues that I've got to work out in my mundane life as well. They will kind of mimic that. So for an example, say you're interested in witchcraft, right? I'm not going to go tell you to go get a book on witchcraft and start practicing it. And you're like, Lotus, why? Because you got to figure out what aspect of witchcraft you want to learn. Is it just the spell work? And the reason I'm saying this is, say you want to learn solely folk magic. You're not going to go out and get a book on witchcraft inherently. No. For an example, you're not going to go out and get this book. By the way, this is an amazing fucking book. But there's a lot of stuff in here that I have not seen in any other books. But in general, this is not folk related. It's the same reason that I'm so glad that now we have books that are on witchcraft that is not through a pagan or a Wiccan lens. Yes, true enough, they kind of work the same, but like with me, I started out Wicca. It took years to me to kind of unprocess the way that they teach how to do your practice. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but you have to integrate it when you are ready. It's the same way of when you start researching witchcraft for the first time. Like with me, I would not identify as a witch. It didn't feel right. I didn't feel like I didn't deserve, or I had not worked up to that title yet. And you're like, well, Lotus, what happened to actually get you to identify as a witch? I was having a conversation with somebody about 3.5 years into my practice, and I identified without thinking as a witch. And I was like, and I stopped the conversation. I was like, holy shit, I just identified myself as a witch. To me, that was okay. I'm ready to the point where I actually identify with it. When it comes to integrating these things in, you don't have to do it right then and there, and do it slowly or do it rapidly fast. It depends on what works for you. All right. I don't know if I actually answered the question that the particular person was asking, but I hope I did. And I also hope I help other people as well. But yeah, just go with the feeling, go with the vibe. For the longest time, I used a pendulum, and I'm like, yo, pendulum, is this the time for me? And if you need to do that, then by all means do it. If you need to read tarot or ask the tarot a yes or no question, hey, is now a great time for me to set up this altar? By all means do it. But don't rush it, and don't feed into that pressure of, oh, you need to do this. It's just like if you go on social media, Hecate, and I keep going back to Hecate because she's the most prominent one that I see, but it's the same aspect if you've been in the witchy or pagan community for any moment in time. When the Thor movies came out, when the Loki series came out, oh my god, people were working with these Norse deities. And yes, deities will use social media and stuff like that to get your attention, but you also have to have discernment that you are using a platform that is intentionally built around giving you your own unique experience, which means if you favorite this video, if you like this video, and you comment on this video, they're going to show you more videos in the same subject. Okay? So, but if you are a seedling, do not feel pressured that you have to do this or you have to do that, because trust me, it's going to fuck up the experience, all right? You will know if a deity is trying to reach out to you. Well, Lotus, then why do we have readers and psychics and mediums? That's just to kind of help you, give you clarity, especially with me, in the type of readings that I do. That's what they're for. It's not to predict your future. It's to give you clarity and insight. And as a reader myself, who cannot read myself to save my damn life, I literally just got a deck of tarot cards that somebody sent me. That for the very first time in like 10 years, it actually resonates with me. It will answer every question, not what I want answered, but it will answer it without bias, versus this tarot deck that I got from TikTok, where I can read other people to filth, but I cannot read me. It likes to play games and be mean to me. So yeah, again, you're going to find things that don't resonate with you, but you will know deep inside, and you will know inside when the moment in time is right. But again, kind of set up a schedule. It's just like with witchcraft. If you are starting your journey into witchcraft, I will go back to the Wiccan roots. It's not really Wiccan, but I learned it in Wiccan, which is to teach or to practice or research that for a year and a day. That way you're getting a full scope of, okay, is this really meant for you? And another thing to do, it's like when you want a tattoo. one of my exes, their family owned a tattoo shop. So I learned the concept of before you go out and actually get it inked on you, you need to put it into places. Like with me, I would put it on the my phone screen. I would put it in front of the mirror. I'd put it on the refrigerator. Put that image as many places as you can to constantly check, okay, is this something that I want on me for the rest of my life? For the rest of my life. For an example, I have an anchor tattooed on my wrist, and on top of that anchor, it says "Just keep swimming" from Finding Nemo. That became my saying at the New Age shop that I used to work at / herbal store. It kind of became my saying. So if I was having a bad day, my coworkers would come up to me and they're like, "Hey, just keep swimming," and I still use it to this day. Just keep swimming, right? So I hope this answered the questions. If not, let me know. I hope it helps out in some way. And as always, if you would like me to do a video on a specific subject, unless the only time I will not do that is if I do not know enough about it. Okay, so I mean, hey, I'm not going to put misinformation out there. But let me know if this helps. Let me know in the comments if there's any specific subject you would like me to go over, whether I've went over it before. I would totally like to revisit that. And or if I've never been over it before. And as always, are you excited for spring? Because apparently we're getting 6 more weeks of winter, but I don't know if the groundhog knows about global warming or not. But anyways, and what's the last fantasy book you've wrote? Fuck. I said that in a video earlier. Not wrote, read. Anyways, I hope this resonates. Share this to a group to help other people. Like, comment, share, and subscribe if you're not already.